Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Drunk Friend podcast. As always, we're your host. I'm Trav, a.k.a. Nest Friend. That's Alex, a.k.a. Snest Drunk. And this time, we're without a sweet, awesome guest like Norm. It's just the two of us, so no pressure or anything, Alex, but we gotta be the ones here that pull this through.
Well, good thing I took a nap this afternoon, and I'm still kind of waking up, and I'm really high energy right now. And I'm reading about how the Brewers have interest in free agent outfielder, former Twins left fielder Eddie Rosario. That's what people are tuning in for, right? To read about.
I think I know why you took a nap. You read too much about baseball. That might be it. Gotta put you right down.
People don't want to. I still think we should do that podcast where all we do is just go back and forth, like reading names of baseball players from the 90s.
Jack McDowell.
Yeah, Jack McDowell, and then I come back at you and just say, like, Ron Karkovice.
Oh, very nice. Jason Beret. We could do it now.
Beret. Oh, yeah, we could just do White Sox.
Well, you did Ron Karkovice. Yeah, Ozzie Guillen. I mean, that's not as obscure, but yeah.
Ozzie Guillen. I think, what's his name? Omar Vizquel. Did he have a cup of coffee with the White Sox? I don't remember.
Wasn't he an Indian? Didn't he play for Cleveland?
Oh, that's right. He was
a nemesis.
Some central team. But I remember Wilson Alvarez.
We've lost half the listeners. We've lost more than half the listeners.
Come on, people.
Reel it back in.
Hang with us.
I mean, you did take a nap, you said, on your lunch break at work. That's not something I've ever done. I think that's incredible. Kudos to you.
You can get away with it working from home, especially if you have a really loud phone alarm and there's nothing like pressing that you need. You don't have to be at a meeting right after or anything like that. So
I spent my lunch break stressing over what we were going to talk about today because I'm dedicated.
I did that last night. I just whipped together 13 games and was like, all right, this works. That's fine. Meanwhile, you're out there pulling out your hair and you're losing clumps of your beard and,
I'm less of a man. Yeah.
Stress overload.
It's been rough, but we'll get to that at the end of the show. We're going to be ranking our top 13 games from the 2010s. Just 13's Alex's favorite number, I guess, so that's the one we go with. But it's a nice, not round number. It's nice and memorable.
It's not even necessarily 2010s. It's just like pretty much just modern games, I think. This is the retro thing. And
gotcha.
But we might as well put some parameters on it with 2010s just to make it convenient.
Yeah, because I do have one that would break into my list if it were not just 2010s, but we'll get to that later. All right, let's talk about what these YouTube channels have been up to. And we both must have had time on the brain because I went Back to the Future, and I kind of regret it. Those games are just...
God, those games suck.
They're so ass. I thought by now, because I didn't enjoy them at all growing up. I remember they were I rented them a couple times, tried them, maybe went back to it again just to check. Just ass, just awful, bad, disappointing games. But over the past, 20, 30 years, I've played a lot of bad games, That's just part of loving the NES. You got to sift through a whole bunch of bad games. And I thought maybe I would go back and be like, oh, these aren't so bad because, I'm not as jaded or whatever. No, they're still bad, man. It's crazy how bad they are.
And it's pretty weird because Back to the Future is one of the best movies of the 80s. Mm-hmm. Back to the Future 2 is super fun. Back to the Future 3 is fun, campy fun. And then the games, especially 2 and 3.
Oh, man.
Where they just like slap them both together. Like, let's take advantage of this license by doing some nonsensical crap that has nothing to do with the movies. And then let's make the hit detection super wonky. And lots of fun. Lots of failed angry rentals, lots of tortured childhoods, and bad memories.
For sure. It's probably my favorite 80s franchise for sure.
It's funny. I think it was when my girlfriend Pearl, she got bit by a spider really bad, like 5 or 6 times.
Whoa!
On her wrist, and her whole like forearm like blew up. I think I was at work or something.
And that was still more fun than the Back to the Future games. Is that what we were going to
say? You could go in that direction. But she says the Back to the Future movies have been ruined for her because she sat there and that's all they would play was the Back to the Future movies back to back to back to back. And she was in there for like 8 hours waiting. And she's like, I freaking hate those movies. So somebody out there hates those movies.
Well, that's sad.
So I know, right?
Yeah,
because it's the first one is really good. Still,
it really
to this day.
Yeah. I did Back to the Future, but you had a little time on your hands with Time Trax.
No. Yeah, I like finding out about stuff like this. I actually do remember the TV show Time Trax just because I watched a lot of like Star Trek on network TV and Deep Space Nine and stuff like that. And I remember seeing commercials for it all the time, along with Kung Fu: The Legend Continues with David Carradine.
Heck yeah.
I remember the show. I remember it was tacky. I remember it was, low budget sci-fi stuff, but it's kind of neat in a weird way. I thought the premise was kind of neat, and the game isn't terrible. The game is fine. Fun little, just run to the right, blow stuff up, good sprite animation. Compared to some of the other games, the other run and gun style action platformers on the Super Nintendo, like Time Slip or like Realm and stuff like that I've covered, like this is better than those, I think. So that's one category where the Super Nintendo really lags. Like once you get past Contra 3 and Earthworm Jim, it feels like there's not a whole lot. Then you got to go into like the top down run and gun category, like Pocky and Rocky and Smash TV and stuff. But
right on. Yeah, when I saw the sprite for the guy in Time Trax, it reminded me so much of Kid Chameleon. I was like, what is going on? Because he's kind of got it seems like he's wearing a leather jacket with jeans, just kind of running around. And
and the Hanes undershirt, but he needed the cool shades though.
That's what he needed. Yeah,
that's the only thing missing.
But that was a complete. God, I hate to do it, but that was kind of a hidden gem to me. I have not heard of the show even. I didn't know anything about this one.
I'm going to have to turn my phone off. Metal Jesus' lawyers are going to come after me.
He will.
Jeez.
Yeah, and then you put together, you do a series I really like, which is if you like this, you might want to try that. And I can't imagine what it's like putting those types of videos together. They've got to be a ton more work than your usual stuff. But if you liked ActRaiser games, then you might like. I found that ActRaiser likes is just my kink. That's what I want in life. Every game you talked about there is ranked in some of my all-time favorite lists. So I'm just an ActRaiser like guy.
Yeah, it sounds like you're a quintet guy.
Must be.
Which I totally botched in the interview. Rookie mistake. When
Enix,
I said that
what are you talking about?
Enix developed it instead of freaking quintet. I don't know. I was just flying through it and getting and just it's like, let's get this done. Bing bang boom. Easy mistake. But yeah, it's Soul Blazer is awesome. Even that goofy TurboGrafx 16 import is kind of fun just because it's all real-time action and you play as these cutesy little animals. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but that one's kind of cool. Yeah. I was not expecting that one to be anything interesting, but it really kind of is. And I always take an opportunity to talk about Chaos Seed if I can, because that game is so weird, but it's really well done because it's like SimCity meets a top-down action RPG in a weird way. It's hard to describe. Yeah,
when you're putting together a list like that and you end up finding games like Chaos Seed or the one on the TurboGrafx 16, are you crowdsourcing any of that information, or is this just spreadsheets that you've been keeping around or memories of your own that you reflect back to when you think of what's a game that was like ActRaiser?
Yeah, it's when I put this stuff together, it doesn't all happen in like one afternoon or anything like that. I come up with the original idea, like what would be some games like ActRaiser, and then I kind of keep a text file. I have what's listed as a future folder in all my text resources, and under future I've got like ActRaiser like file, and then I just type in notes. Like, here's a game that I found that's kind of like the ActRaiser. Here's why, just brief notes and stuff like that. And I already had like 4 of them on there. I knew I wanted to talk about Dark Cloud 2, Soul Blazer, Chaos Seed, and Big Sky Trooper. But the rest... Oh, and then Sigma Star Saga, which is for Game Boy Advance. I ended up doing a video on that one. That game is really cool, too. But that TG16 one was... from the infamous Giant Bomb website.
Oh, so, yeah.
Yeah, I just kind of was dorking around on that site a little bit. And occasionally I'll go to the Patreon Discord chat and be like, hey, what do you guys think of this list? Am I missing anything obvious? And they're usually really good with suggestions and stuff like that.
It's always good to have a group of folks you can go to stave off that first wave of pedantic comment that you could get for a little mistake like that. So it's it's the same reason I use Musty Hobbit. I get him to now. I used to send him my videos after they were done, and it was like, hey, will you review this? But I found that most of his issues with my stuff was just like things that I said in the script. So now I just send him the script, and I'm like, what is this ridiculous? Did I tell any lies? And he's caught a few like. Just little things here and there that I'm like, oh, I would have totally got blasted for that. Thank you so much.
Telling lies. Yeah, you're deliberately deceiving your audience.
Yeah. I mean, just
channel.
little things that people will focus on and not focus on anything else in your video, like, accidentally saying Christopher Reeves instead of Reeve. That's shit that people will just comment, and you're like, now that's not what I want you to focus on. Like, that's... You're distracting me from enjoying one.
It's Christopher Reeve, and
I hate it so much. Yeah.
Why? It should be obvious to even the most dim-witted individual that it's Christopher Reeve. Why?
I'm crossing Jerry Lewis with. I mean, Professor Frink is based off of Jerry Lewis. So
I mean, that impersonation is so good; it almost sounds like you have a soundboard with you. That's how good it is. That's not even being facetious. It's very good.
Stay tuned for more wacky voices later on, folks.
Oh yes, absolutely. Okay, so I guess we could go ahead and jump into some emails. First, this is from Grant. He titles this email the Sly Stallone app. If you guys remember, we had Sly Stallone on a few weeks ago.
Oh, great guest.
Oh, he was great. Grant says, hey guys, I was surprised no one talked about the Expendables movie series. I wasn't the biggest fan of those guys' individual movies growing up, but once those washed-up has-beens, as I once called them for laughs in an action movie group, got together and made fun of themselves, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Anyway, love the show, and both of your outside shows, Tales of the Lesser Medium, has been fun as a friend is having me go through some of the RE games, and it almost takes conspiracy boards to keep up with the timeline. Keep it going, and happy holidays. So this is an ancient email from Grant. Sorry, we're just getting to it, Grant, but I appreciate the email. I think I watched the first Expendables movie. I get what you're saying. I do like they just got together to poke a little fun at themselves, but I wasn't hooked enough, I think, to dig into a second one or even a third one, if that exists. What about you, Alex?
I think it does.
Yeah?
The third one does exist, I think, if I remember correctly. The first one's fun. I was a little let down by the first one. I thought I think at that point, when did that come out? Like 2009 or something like that?
Oh, has it been that long?
2010.
Jeez.
Let me look it up. Expendables was 2010.
Jeez. I didn't realize it'd been that long.
I had been spoiled by like all the, the Matrix style stuff, and I'd seen lots of, other Jet Li movies, other Stallone movies, and stuff like that had some like really over the top awesome action in it. The Transporter movies with Jason Statham, those are freaking fun. But Expendables was just kind of okay. I do like the self-awareness, poking fun at themselves, old guys. I think they were a little on the nose with the second one, especially once frickin' what's his name showed up, Chuck Norris. That was kind of in the second one. I was like, all right.
Yeah.
It was a little too like, aren't we clever? Like, isn't this funny? It's like, okay, just do your stuff. But I have not seen the third one. And that one came out in 2014. I should watch it though. You should watch it too. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean they're fun. They're not meant to be taken seriously. I'm not going at it like I'm watching Citizen Kane or a Kubrick film. So yeah, it's fine. I don't mind staying up late, getting a little hammered, watching old sweaty guys run around. That sounds good. If we watch wrestling, you have to like the Expendables if you like wrestling.
Oh, of course. And Steve Austin is even in the first movie.
There you go. He
gets set on fire, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Also, before we move on, I want to thank Grant for mentioning Tales of the Lesser Medium. It's a podcast where we make fun of video game narratives. We've done the Resident Evil series and the classic Tomb Raiders. We've also done Blaster Master as a little one-off for the classic fans. But we have a new season that's coming out here in a couple weeks, so I just wanted to mention that.
We got another email here from Ian. Or is it Ian? like Ian Eagle? Ian? Hello, drunk friend, who I'm writing while still listening to the Dan Hess episode, and I have to say that I've been listening since day one, and there has never been a bad interview. That's a really nice thing to say. Thanks. Every guest that you guys get has been so interesting. It's crazy to me because I came into Drunk Friend thinking it was just going to be another video game podcast, which would have been just fine. But the amount of experiences and knowledge that have come through my headphones in this past year has been wonderful. Because of the podcast, I have been able to find new channels to watch and people to follow, with the very first being Trav, since I've been subbed to SNES Drunk for many years. Good job, Trav. I guess what I want to say is thank you for taking the time out of your lives this past year to do this as often as you have. It has been one of the few things I've looked forward to every week.
Us too.
Yeah, me too, yeah. A question I want to ask Alex in particular is, what is your opinion of Radical Dreamers? Do you think it is worth playing to get the full Chrono Trigger experience? And Trav, since you've been doing videos on Famicom games, what are some of your favorite Famicom games? Thank you guys, and I'm looking forward to hearing more episodes. Thanks for the nice feedback there, Ian.
Yeah, that's great.
Ian,
thank you.
Really nice to hear. Radical Dreamers is fine. I don't think it's essential by any stretch, but like he phrased it in the email, to get the full Chrono Trigger experience, like, yeah, if you just want more of that world, and I don't blame you if you do, then it's fine. I like it better than like Crimson Echoes or like Flames of Eternity or any of that stuff. That's not really my bag, but yeah, I guess Radical Dreamers, for those that don't know, it's all text. It's a visual novel, quote unquote, follow up to Chrono Trigger, but not really. Kind of, sort of, not really, but it's fine for what it is, but I don't consider it like anything like a must read, must play, or anything those lines. But for you, you're just dipping your toe into the whole Famicom thing, right?
Yeah, barely even a toe, I would say. If there's anything on your body less than a toe, that's what I'm dipping in there, so I'm not very far in. There are some I want to get to, though. I mean, there's a lot of RPGs that if I can, take the time to get through, maybe get some translation patches for, like Mother, you have to say it like Danzig. Lagrange Point, which is, I could sing that one like ZZ Top, but I just didn't have the beat in my head. Or yeah, there are a couple others that I just really want to get to. I've only covered a few on the channel, and honestly, the ones I've covered are the ones I've spent the most time with. But and this one doesn't even count, but I think the one that I've actually had the most fun with has been Goonies, which is just a port of the arcade version of the original Goonies game, and that's just fun because I'm a huge Goonies fan, to be honest with you. But
I don't get why that. I'm sure you explained this, but like, why the heck didn't that show up in North America?
I don't know. I don't know.
Does anybody know? Like, is it just like, oh, well, I think that's a Konami game, right?
It is, and part of me because I felt like the Goonies 2 one game came out like so close to it. Maybe they just didn't want to confuse the market and release them close together or something like that. I don't know. I completely made that up. I'm sure there'll be a Well-Actually.
No, that makes sense though, because
could have been. Yeah.
Nintendo always thinks their viewing audiences, or I should say their buying audiences, a bunch of morons.
Oh yeah.
And that goes all the way through to why Star Fox 2 was canceled, because
Mm-hmm.
we want the real 3D experience to be the N64. And it's like, do you really think that lowly of your audience that they can't see the difference between Star Fox 2 and, I don't know, that still bothers me. But anyway, thanks for the nice email, Ian.
Yes, thank you, Ian. Now we're going to move on to Robert Ring, our buddy from the Classic Gaming Podcast. He says, "Hey, Tralex." That's us together, Alex. How nice.
Hey.
He says, "Fantastic episode with Dan Hess." That one must have been really popular. He says, "It was super interesting and informative. Aside from the time you had one of the idiots from Classic Gaming Podcast on, this was maybe my favorite episode so far. I give it a 95. And of course, he means out of 1,000. Question. When you play racing games or otherwise driving-based games, what is your go-to camera mode? It seems the 4 primary ones are first-person driver's seat, first-person absolute, where you can't see the inside of the car, third-person close-up, and third-person pulled back. I will occasionally dabble in first-person driver's seat mode if the game leans heavily into racing sim territory like Gran Turismo, but I've always preferred the third-person pulled-back view because I like to be able to see the car itself, especially if it's customizable, and it usually seems to give you more information than the close-up third-person mode. Thanks for the podcast, and keep up the good work, Rob Ring." Thanks for the email, Rob.
That idiot on the Classic Gaming Podcast, he's probably talking about that Jay guy.
Yeah, you remember when Jay was on here. Yeah,
Jay was on here. Jeez. Yeah, I agree with Rob here that the third person pulled back, kind of like F-Zero and Top Gear, Daytona USA, that stuff. I don't understand how people can do first person with driving games. I am a disaster if I'm first person. Even with the first person in the driver's seat. Like, I'm just going too freaking fast, and I feel like I need to like hit the brakes constantly or something. But yeah, third person pulled back, and he makes a good point about being able to see your own car in like Gran Turismo and those types of games.
Oh, yeah.
Because what's the point? Like, that's all that game is. It's just like messing with your car, and what's the point if you can't see it?
Exactly, yeah. And I'm the same way. But I always do dabble, always, get in that front seat a little bit, because I think that's where you kind of see how immersive the gameplay is, and it never hooks me. I'm always panic because I feel like a hood ornament. I'm like, get me out of here. Oh, my God. Plus, I can't see the cars around me. I'm just banging off walls and everything, so...
Yeah, I always get anxious anytime I flip past NASCAR and they have the camera inside the car. Yeah. And he's like, there's like another car like less than an inch away. And I'm like, oh my God, like how the hell do these guys do this?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's not comfortable at all.
Yeah. So I'm also a third person pulled as far back as it'll let me go.
Like, especially with games, going, especially with games like Road Rash 64, like the further back you are, the better. I mean, as long as you're not like freaking tiny, but then you can cause more carnage and you can beat the crap out of more people. You can see more people on your screen. That's one thing I didn't like about the some of the other Road Rash games was that you're too close. Like you're right behind the bike, whereas the N64 version, you're further back, so you can like slide your bike all the way across and knock out like 3 different people's back wheels and watch them all spin out. So satisfying.
Heck yeah.
That was just an excuse to talk about my favorite N64 game. That's all.
No, that's perfectly fine. And it just makes me wish there were more modern Road Rash entries. Wasn't there like a knockoff that come around, but it never got traction?
I can't remember what the name of it is. It was like Road Revengeance or
something like that. Yeah,
something like that. Yeah.
Oh well, maybe one day. So in this next part, if you remember back in the old days of good weather, when we had Tara on here who ran 75 miles in a day, we got an email from someone who was like, wow, that was awesome. I don't know anything about running, but I wish I knew more about swimming. And then we had another guy email and was like, I know a little bit about swimming. I went to a swim meet in South Korea, and we were like, man, it would be great if this guy could get answers from this guy. And so we wrote both of them and said, hey, guy who wants to know about swimming, what are some questions for Swimmer Guy? And we sent those to Swimmer Guy, and Swimmer Guy was like, yeah, I'll answer these questions. So we have answers and questions here. We're going to do a swim meet up. We'll swim like a cute 'em up, like a swim 'em up? I don't know,
swim
Alex.
'em up.
I'm trying too hard is what I'm doing.
Swim 'em up. Why isn't anybody... That seems like a Data East arcade game where it's like a beat 'em up, only it's like synchronized swimming somehow.
You just swim toward each other and beat each other up with your breaststrokes.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
I love it.
So how are we doing this? Okay, so we've got the hopeful swimmer. His name is Jono.
Mm-hmm.
He's a longtime interviewer, a longtime emailer.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got Joe, the swimmer. So who do you want to be? Which one are you picking?
I'll be Jono, the hopeful swimmer.
Okay. So, then since I'm Joe, I'll sound like a know-it-all. Then I'll do the know-it-all nerd voice for Joe.
Okay.
I can't believe you're even asking me this, style attitude. I'm sure Joe's a very nice person, obviously since he listens to this podcast.
Yeah.
But in this context, he's the know-it-all swimmer.
Okay.
And he cannot believe how insulting Jono is being by asking such obvious questions.
And I think by reading the emails, I believe Jono is actually Australian, but I will never attempt an Australian accent on this podcast for fear of it going horribly wrong and me just sounding like me doing a bad accent.
Oi.
Is that the entirety of your Australian accent?
That's all I know about Australia is oi.
But they like to surf down there in Australia. I think there's big waves and beaches,
and they can't sleep while the beds are burning.
Was that a Billy Joel song?
Midnight Oil.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So I thought maybe I'll do a little Keanu, a little Point Break, Keanu.
That works.
All right. Hey Joe, what are your best tips for improving form? I tried having myself filmed swimming laps, but only being able to see surface level meant I could only fix half the problem. My underwater strokes always let me down.
Well, to improve form, my most helpful tips is to keep your elbow strong. You don't drop it unless you're just dragging your arm through the water like a wet noodle. You don't want to do that. Treat your whole arm like an oar, and you'll propel yourself through the water quicker with less effort.
Wow, that's really enlightening. You kind of sound like an asshole. Okay.
I'm sorry, Joe. I'm sure you're a nice guy, but
No, that was perfect.
Okay, well, growing up somewhere that had, no indoor swimming facilities, our pool was only open for summer. What kind of exercises would you recommend for the off-season? Low impact would also be good to know about, as that is part of the appeal to swimming for me.
Well, it should be obvious to anyone that exercises for the off-season would include those that don't necessarily require extra equipment, such as push-ups, crunches, burpees, planks, etc. If you have access to gym equipment, weight training will go a long way as well.
Right on. Okay, great. What are your thoughts on full-body swimming outfits, man? I remember when I was younger, and they were coming into popularity, right? A lot of people thought they were unbalancing the competition by helping to streamline swimmers, you know what I'm saying? On the one hand, I prefer the coverage they provide, but I always felt that a smaller costume allows me to feel my movement through the water better, you know what I mean?
Well, actually, I have no idea what you mean, because full-body swimming outfits are nice and all, but if you're willing to shave all your hair off, there's no need for one. They're a lot more expensive than plain a pair of jammers, which are kind of like a Speedo, but they go down to your knee.
I never was a fan of Speedos, which are commonly referred to as budgie smugglers here in Australia.
Well, actually, I despite me sounding like an asshole, I wish Jono all the best in his swimming career.
All right, yeah.
I think we did great. I want to give us both, What is it, an Emmy? A Grammy? Which one do you get here, an Oscar?
I think it's a Tony.
Get a Tony.
Maybe a Tony Award. Yeah. What do podcasts have awards? Should we start one?
I think you can get like a Webby or something. But
Is that a thing?
I mean, I think so. But whatever it is, we deserve it, because I think that was fantastic. And I want to thank Jono and Joe for playing along and writing the scripts, and hopefully Jono got some good answers there.
Yeah, Jono. Hopefully you could understand what I was saying.
If not, we'll email you the transcript.
We'll email you the transcript, exactly.
That was fun. Okay, so moving on back to video games. I picked up some more Super Nintendo games, and as we all know, Alex is the Super Nintendo savant. You've built up a wealth of knowledge. You've played, I guess, well over. I mean, obviously most of them. Could you name the ones that you haven't played on the Super Nintendo? Are there any?
No, because there's too many like racing games and
okay,
like just weird ass Pachinko Collection 4 like that. I don't know what the hell that is.
I'm going to request that on your Patreon now, but yes.
Please don't.
But no, we're going to give some first impressions of some games here that I picked up. Now, some of them I've heard of, I don't really know much about. One of them is licensed, and I know, I guess a couple of them are licensed, and I know the license. Have no idea what the game is. So let's get started off here. I think this one's pretty popular. Just being a NES guy, I don't know a ton about it, and that's Doomsday Warrior. What are we dealing with Doomsday Warrior?
It sounds cool, but it's kind of not. I remember doing a video on this one a while ago. It's a little bit better on Genesis because it's kind of a. Oh, wait a second. I'm thinking of Doom Troopers. Doomsday Warrior is that a fighting game? I honestly don't know what that is.
Oh, we got him, folks. We got first try here. We got him.
First try. Yeah,
we stumped the drunk.
To the hype here.
That's actually.
I was thinking Doom Troopers, and that one is like a run and gun game, and it's like bleh. But Doomsday Warrior, I think it's a fighting game, because I remember somebody commenting on it, and on another fighting game I on another different video I did a while ago, and I was like, what the hell is that?
Yeah, looking it up here, it says it was created during the fighting game trend of the 90s that was popularized by Capcom Street Fighter II. So, indeed, it sounds like it's a by-the-numbers fighting game.
Yeah, no, I don't have any thoughts on this game at all because I haven't really played it.
It's a cool name, Doomsday Warrior.
Off to a good start.
All right, we got him. We stumped the drunk. That's the name of the segment. Next one here, Earth Defense Force.
Oh yeah, that's on Switch online service. And that's Super Earth Defense Force.
Oh. By the way, that's Super Earth Defense Force.
That's a horizontal shoot 'em up, and it's really, really hard. But you do have like 8 weapons to choose from. that you can kind of customize. You can kind of power them up as you go, as you play through the game. You're gonna die a lot if you play that one.
Sweet.
A lot. Like a lot. I forget how many levels, probably the usual like 6 or 7, but yeah. It's solid, it's fine. I think Jalico, however you say it, devs it. So, yeah.
Right on. Okay, very good. What about that Stargate game? Is that worth the time?
Yeah, that one's pretty good.
Really?
It reminded me a lot of it. That one was actually graced the cover of Nintendo Power back in the day. And I was like, what the hell's Stargate doing on the cover? I remember seeing that. But it reminded me a lot of the Super Star Wars games. But they're structured a bit differently, where you've got to duck into buildings, look for items, do stuff. It's not so much run to the right and kill everything that moves. You got to like find items and all that sort of thing. But it's pretty good.
Cool. I'm really surprised to hear that. I was full on expecting it to be just one of those sloggy, boring space. You're in a space ship and you got to figure out how to turn it on for most of the game, and you don't, so you turn the game off.
That's the only Super Nintendo game with James Spader.
That's the trivia I need. It's a great movie. I love Spader in that movie.
Oh, that movie is great. Yeah.
There's just like, can we talk about how captivating James Spader is when he's on camera? Like, he just kind of steals the scene because he's so interesting to look at. He's always doing something weird with his mouth. Is it just me?
I mean, I guess. Well, let me think of where I've seen James Spader. I mean, he was kind of like the creepy guy in every high school movie in the 80s. What was it? Pretty in Pink?
That sounds right. Yeah.
I forget, but he was in one of those like John Hughes movies where he plays somebody really creepy. What else is he in? Oh, of course, he played Robert California in the later seasons of The Office.
Yes. Well, that's another one where he has like I don't know what term it is, but it's like a very pensive mouth. He said when he's thinking, he does a lot of weird mouth stuff, and it's captivating to me. It's like he can exude 50 different emotions just by moving his lips a little bit. I don't know what it is. I'm not alone in this. I've had conversations with other people. I was hoping you would be like, absolutely, but you seem like you're backing away from me right now.
I don't know. I haven't seen enough of. I haven't studied James Spader's mouth enough to answer that properly.
You have homework.
What else was he? He was in. The only other thing I can think of that he was in was Boston Legal, and when I think of that show, I think of Shatner.
He's in that show that's concurrent that I haven't kept up with. I watched a little bit of it, but it's called The Blacklist. He's in that. But that's on Netflix. If you don't watch a lot of modern TV, you've missed it completely. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't spend a lot of time looking at James Spader's gaping maw, so I can't comment on that.
Now, he was in a movie in 1983 called Cocaine, One Man's Seduction, which I think we should all watch sometime.
That sounds like a Julian Sands special with starring Shannon Tweed and all those other people.
Stars Dennis Weaver, in fact. Okay, here's game number 4. There's 5 of these. Number 4 is Porky Pig's Haunted Holiday. I like the cover. That's why I got it. Is it as fun as it looks?
Yeah, I mean, it's Looney Tunes game. Most Looney Tunes game are at least okay. That one is got Haunted Holiday has. I remember making a top 13 list of like Super Nintendo games to play on Halloween, and that one I wanted to include, but I had to leave it off. But I still wanted to talk about it because I thought it was good enough to mention.
Oh, that's good.
It's one of those like good enough to mention type games.
Gotta love that. I love seeing Porky Pig get the spotlight a little more. He's always in the background. So
yeah.
Let's give Porky his due. Okay, and lastly here, this is not really a game that's secret to me or anything like that. I just wanted to get your thoughts on it or see what your history with it was, because I just played through it for the first time. I was a late comer to Joe and Mac, and I loved it. You like Joe and
Oh, Joe.
Big fan?
Joe and Mac I actually played on the... I'm blanking on his name. Oh, it was Jay, Gaming Jay.
Oh, okay.
He had me on his YouTube show, and we played that co-op. We got to the final boss and died, and it was a lot of fun, though. I really like that game a lot. It's a lot of fun co-op.
Awesome. Yeah, I played through it a couple nights ago and was like, this is just a charming time. It's pretty fun. It's not very difficult, doesn't stress you out or anything, and it's I need to try to play it co-op. I bet it's better.
what's funny is it's classic 90s where in co-op where the more enemies you kill and the more hits you do on the boss, it's like a contest. Like if you do more damage, then you get the babe at the end of the level, and she comes and gives you a peck on the cheek.
You gotta love that. Very cool.
Yeah.
Got to rescue those damsels from dinosaurs. You got to ask yourself though, how did the dinosaurs capture the damsels? Who knows?
Yeah, what are they doing? What are they just
What's going on there?
I'm trying to imagine a scenario of like a dinosaur trying to pick up on a woman and like I'm kind of drawing a blank.
Yeah. It's strange.
Let's go over some NES games. I'm gonna name drop a few and see if I can get some real quick thoughts. What about Legendary Wings?
Legendary Wings, it's a fairly fun shoot 'em up where you're a angel man flying through the air, I think. I think it's kind of tough though. I'm pretty sure it's an arcade port, but
okay.
But yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, I saw it was Capcom, and I'm like, I've never heard of this. Is it any good? What about Monster Truck Rally? Have you played that?
I've not played any Monster Truck Rally, to be honest with you.
It looks like it's got Bigfoot on the cover, but it can't officially show Bigfoot, probably because Bigfoot needed the...
Well, Bigfoot has his own game.
Pay money to... Yeah, Bigfoot had his own game, didn't it?
Yeah. Man, I didn't realize Bigfoot was in 2 games. Now, I've not played Bigfoot either, but you know what I should do? Do a little Monster Truck compilation.
There you go. All right, I'll just torch you with one more. What about... you know what? What about 8 Eyes?
8 Eyes, a Castlevania-esque... more difficult than Castlevania somehow-esque game where you have to travel to different, I can't remember if it's continents or not, but definitely countries of sorts and get, you have to go get an artifact or something and you get all 8 of them together. I guess they're eyes. You got to get all 8 of them together to win. It's pretty tough though, to be quite honest with you, but you do get a falcon. I think it's a falcon.
Yeah, that's what drew me to that game. Our friend John Riggs talked about it a little bit in one of his videos. Recent videos, and I love the fact that it's an NES game and you've got like a little helper dude, a falcon that like flies around on its own. You can call it back to your shoulder and then summon it back, and it's got its own health bar and it'll go back out and attack people. I thought that was awesome. I was like, hey, that's kind of like what is the other game that does that? Like Mega Man? I forget if it's 4 or 5 when you get the bird.
Oh yeah.
And it goes and attacks everybody.
Yeah,
like, that's kind of cool. Other games do that too. That's kind of neat.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, and you get like alternative weapons and stuff. But I just found that it's pretty tough. It's like Castlevania mixed with Mega Man, and then just a notch more difficult. Maybe because it's not as designed as well as either of those. That's probably why it's harder. But
yeah, it's developed by somebody called Thinking Rabbit.
Oh, they were great back in
household
90.
Name.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the people from Thinking Rabbit went on to do extraordinary stuff. They're actually responsible for the Souls franchise now. The same folks.
It's their only game for NES.
Yeah, you should play 8 Eyes if you're curious. I think it's interesting.
Yeah, it looks awesome. So you did better than I did there.
Well, I mean, I hadn't played either Monster Truck game. What kind of 80s 90s kid am I?
I don't know.
Not a good one.
Oh. So anyway, we tasked ourselves with coming up with the 13 best, at least our 13 favorite games from the past 10, 11 years or so. We just put a limit on 2010. I guess ultimately I did say, best games of the 2010s, but...
yes, you did, which is why my list is short. One very important game.
Altering the deal. Pray I don't alter it any further. So I have to preface mine though real quick. I haven't played a lot of big stuff that most people have. I've not played Breath of the Wild. I've not played Last of Us or Overwatch or even stuff like Octopath Traveler. But I have played stuff like Bravely Default, which I wasn't crazy about, Link Between Worlds, which was good, Hotline Miami, Cuphead, Ori and the Blind Forest. I've played a good amount of recent stuff, but not a lot of the huge AAA titles. I'm busy playing games based off of TV shows that lasted 2 seasons on USA Network. Those are my priorities. And when I think of recent games, I think of like ROM hacks. I don't think of like Breath of the Wild or anything like that. So that's just where my head's at.
I think we'll have interesting lists because I played a lot of the predictable AAA stuff, and those end up being usually some of my more cherished experiences, just because they're usually deeper with narrative and such. So I don't have a lot of things on here that people will be able to be like, oh, what was that game he's talking about? Because you're going to know all of these.
What's your number 13?
My number 13 is Far Cry 3, and I know that's just one of those series. It's Ubisoft, it's Far Cry. It's like, man, it's like Call of Duty, but with a haircut or something, But I gotta say, man, there's just something about the being stranded on an island with just a couple weapons and just the whole survival aspect of it, I think, is why I like it so much. And it just has a recipe I'm in favor of. When people kind of roll their eyes at it, I understand it, because it is kind of that game that if I hadn't tried it, I would roll my eyes at it too. But the villains are really good, and it's just fun.
Yeah, Far Cry, the original, came at the tail end of my PC gaming prime, I'll call it, and that would have been like 2004 or something like that, 2005. And I loved it when it came out. It was something a little different. The setting was a bit different. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I remember dabbling in the second one, but I never played the third one. So
I think the third one is the one that people will point to and say, if you're looking to get into it, that's where you should start. And I would say, even though it came out in late 2012, it probably holds up enough for that still to be true.
Right on. My number 13 is kind of a weird one. I put down Bloodborne because it's kind of representing the whole Dark Souls, all that whole series, basically, because I have played Bloodborne and I need to play more of it because it's really good. It's really friggin' hard, and obviously like the enemy design, the art design, and all that sort of stuff is incredible. All the cool stuff you can do with your character is awesome. I just haven't put enough time into it myself, so I have to stick it down at 13. I recognize that all those games are freaking great, and they're my thing too. I have a feeling I will really dig them if I really put the time into them, but I have to keep them down at 13.
I'm scared of them, to be quite honest with you.
So am I.
Too hard. Number 12 for me is Axiom Verge. I really enjoyed that game.
Good one.
Yeah, it filled a huge, I don't know, I know you don't like the term Metroidvania, but I just want to use the term, it filled a huge Metroid void for me when it came out.
Yeah, it definitely has the original NES Metroid vibe to it. And the story is kind of neat, too.
Yes, and there's a second one coming, hopefully, this year.
Hopefully, yeah. My number 12 is Blazing Chrome. This was a really fun run and gun made by two people that were obviously very much into Contra 3 and Contra Hardcore. And this game lives up to that. It's short. It's not like this big, all-encompassing game, but it's really fun. It's a freaking blast. I love all the different weapons. The settings are awesome. The enemy design is really fun, especially like the big monster, the Terminator dude that busts out of the wall because he can't wait for you. He has to like stick his head in the room, and then you defeat his head and knock him back, and then you see his whole body. It's like, oh shit. I gotta fight this whole thing now. But yeah, that's a really fun game. I really appreciate the work that went into that game. It's really good.
Man, that's another one that's just almost too hard for me to almost get a good enjoyment out of it. It kicks my ass.
Yeah, it's tough. I did beat it on normal. I did not beat it on hard. It's stuff just gets too fast on hard.
Good for you though, man. I didn't get as far in normal, so dang.
Super fun game. Yeah. For those listening that have not played it, it's well worth it.
Okay, number 11 for me is Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. Man, I've never been so spooked and grossed out and still had the time of my life playing a game. I usually play games like this with my buddy Brian Briz. Pre-COVID, we would get together on a couch, do some couch co-op. Even though it's not a two-player game, it still kind of relieves some of the tension in some of these spookers when you can pass the controller off. And also, I find in a lot of the scary games, some of the places where you get stuck are really frustrating, and you don't really want to try it again immediately because it's kind of emotionally taxing because it's so heavy and scary. You just pass the controller off, let your buddy take care of it for a little bit, and then you don't walk away from the game as often. So we plowed through that game because of that, and it was so fun. It looked so good, and it's so scary, and I can't wait for number 8 that's also coming out this year.
Yeah, Resident Evil Village.
Yeah.
And that's going to be fun. The trailer of that one looked insane. Yeah, Pearl loves Resident Evil, and yeah, she had a blast playing this when she got that. My number 11 is Undertale.
Oh.
I really like what this game did. I understand the game is basically become like a lot of people roll their eyes when they hear it because it's got kind of a touchy-feely story. The humor doesn't work for everybody. I get that. That's fine. I just really like what they did from a design perspective of making a turn-based RPG with little mini games as the combat. I thought that was really cool, really well done. It gets more and more interesting as the game goes on. And I really like the idea of how the story is structured where combat is optional. And I don't want to spoil anything, but yeah, I thought that was really well done. I don't know. I liked the game a lot. I understand if people don't because, humor is always subjective and that sort of thing. And some people might be like so annoyed by the humor that they don't see the story or this game structure. They might ignore everything else because the humor is so annoying. And I get that.
Yeah.
But it worked for me.
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty short too. I've not played it, but it's shorter for a game like that too, right? It's like, it won't take you long. Less than 10 hours or so.
It's like 10 hours, I think. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I need to play that one. Number 10 for me is one you mentioned earlier, actually, Cuphead. I really enjoyed Cuphead. Thought it was phenomenal to look at, super fun to play, and I've never seen anything like it, and I hope that team, I'm blanking on their name right now, but I hope that they go on to do something in the similar vein, if not a full-on sequel at some point soon.
Yeah. That's how you felt about Blazing Chrome is how I feel about Cuphead. That game just absolutely destroyed me. But I think it's because I was so distracted by the visuals because they're so freaking cool.
Yes.
And I grew up watching cartoons of that era, like going all the way back to Bosco and all that kind of stuff. Late 20s, early 30s. I wish that game. I wish I was better at that game. I'll say that.
Yeah. Studio MDHR. I just wanted to clarify that. But yes.
So my number 10 is Streets of Rage 4.
Oh.
And the only reason this is at number 10 and not higher is because I still haven't played enough of this. I still want to put in enough time with other characters. And I love that beat 'em ups are still a thing in, this day and age. When you think about it, like beat 'em ups are kind of outdated, it's something like Streets of Rage on the surface sounds like it shouldn't work today. It sounds like it'd be boring as hell, but Streets of Rage 4 it was just awesome. Like it just works. It's the atmosphere, it's all the stuff that worked on the previous Streets of Rage games that made those so good, like the music. And they did a really good job building the moveset in Streets of Rage 4 too, to give you a little more incentive to keep going, to play through that one, to see what else your character can do, which is a lot of fun. And the boss fights in the game are a lot of fun too.
Yeah, I was really blown away by how they made an old recipe feel fresh again. And yeah, like you said, they modernized it just enough so that, it appeals to old beer-gutted guys like us and you kids alike. So that's very cool. I'm playing it actually right now with a buddy, not right as we speak, but currently playing through it co-op. I only played it single, so I'm playing through it co-op again and unlocking more characters, and it's just so addictive. It's so fun. Okay, number 9 for me is Rocket League.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, I went through probably a year of the mid-2010s, I guess right when Rocket League came out, playing mostly Rocket League. And I remember there being like a week I was sick off work and just kept playing Rocket League. And I got decent enough to win more than I lost, which was not an experience that's common for me with video games. So that's probably why I like it so much, is that I had a knack for it for a little bit. Probably couldn't play worth a shit now, but man, it was fun while it lasted. So I look back on my Rocket League days like a retired baseball player almost.
Retired baseball. You mean like
my glory days,
Alex Fernandez or
yeah, like Robin Yount.
Marty Cordova. There they go again. Yeah, no, I actually have not ever played Rocket League, but it's a blast to watch. Some of the ridiculous goals that people score that I see, and like I'm subscribed to the Game Physics subreddit, and every once in a while a Rocket League video will come across, and it's some absurd goal, some guy going coast to coast, just it's barely keeping the ball in play on the tip of its bumper or whatever.
Yeah, it's so fun. Such a crazy, what a video game idea. It amazes me that car soccer wasn't a thing that happened until 2015. That felt like the first thing we should have thought of when video games were invented.
It feels like something you can actually do in like some of the older Grand Theft Auto games, or maybe like Just Cause 3.
Yeah.
Some of those like sandbox games where it's like you can run over a mailbox and then start playing soccer with it somehow.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. It probably, I'm guessing that's how the idea came about.
Probably.
Eventually from somebody. My number 9 is Portal 2.
Ooh.
And if Portal 1 were eligible, that would be in this place, and that would be higher. But Portal 2 introduced J.K. Simmons, his voice, and the other guy, what's his name, Stephen Merchant, into the mix, which was just, it's such an awesome blend of, it takes some pretty, frustrating puzzles and adds a lot of humor to it and a lot of charm to it. It almost has like a Nintendo quality to it, because that's Nintendo's specialty, is taking something reasonably simple, like a one screen, punch out type game, and adding like a ton of humor and charm to it. And that's what I feel like Portal 2 does, or the Portal games, I should say, do. Yeah,
those are great. I'm going to bring it up later as well. So
dope.
Yeah, I love them. Number, what are we at? 8 here for me is Doom from 2016. I didn't think they could, I don't know, I didn't think it would live up to the hype, but everything from the graphics to the feel to the gameplay to the how fast the story is, it doesn't waste your time with narrative, because they know you don't want that. And then that soundtrack by Mick Gordon just rips. Huge fan of Doom.
That's funny, because my number 8 is Doom 2016.
Hell yes!
I thought you were reading off my list for a second. It's like, well, how'd you do that?
Nice. We did it finally.
Yeah,
I didn't expect us to have any overlaps. So that's great.
Yeah, that game is freaking awesome. How do you sit down and play Doom 2016 and be like,
Dude, yes, I know.
That game is everything you could possibly want out of Doom, at least for me. Like, when I think of playing a Doom game, that's my expectation. That's what I want to get out of it. And it's this, like, just like you said, the soundtrack, and it's just how freaking fast it is.
So fast.
It's awesome.
I made the mistake of trying to play it in VR at a buddy's house. You will get sick. Like, it doesn't matter how resistant you are to motion sickness, which I thought I was. I couldn't do much in that, but it still was awesome.
Yeah, that was the first game I used to kind of, turn my nose up at, like,
well, the frame rate isn't proper,
whatever. The frame rate, snobs. It really matters in a game like Doom 2016, because
Sure.
you can really, it speeds everything up, and everything is so smooth, and that was the first time I can remember being like, okay, give me all the frames.
A few more frames, please. Yeah, right on. A game that doesn't need as many frames, though, but I still thought was pretty fun, was Persona 5.
Huh.
Yes. I know that seems out of character for me, and it kind of is. I got talked into it by my buddy Jake, who ended up buying it for me for Christmas because I think he wanted me to play it so bad, and I ended up playing it and falling in love with it. Again, it's not, I haven't played any other, game in the series. I was a complete Persona noob, no Shin Megami Tensei experience at all, so I went into this one completely not knowing what to expect and came away being like, wow, what just happened? That was awesome. It was so fun. Great story.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's one I'm not all that familiar with, other than watching other people play it and watching other videos about it and that sort of stuff.
Another phenomenal soundtrack. I mean, just incredible.
Sure. So that was your number 7,
Correct.
I'm guessing. Yeah, number 7. My number 7 is Hollow Knight.
Ooh.
This one was a lot of fun. As you know, I hate the term Metroidvania.
I prefer to use the term exploration platformer.
Okay.
I think that's just my snobby preference there. Exploration platformer. I think it works better.
It is.
That's just me.
I like perpetually stuck platformer, but
time wasting platformer. I think Hollow Knight is a step above. With all due respect to games like Guacamelee and even stuff like Cave Story, going way back. I can't even think of some of the other popular ones, but I think Hollow Knight is like head and shoulders above those. I think the feel for the controls is really good. The art style is awesome, especially some of the early bits that really draw you in, and some of the enemy design, and everything explodes in this like orange stuff, and it's like, what's with that? And the game actually explains that. That's not actually a aesthetic choice. There's actually a reason for that. And the game does a really good job blending like the story, the weird story, and all the different mechanics. There's a ton of stuff you can do in that game, which I really like. So
Nice.
yeah.
That's another one I've started, and then it kicked my ass, and I got scared and ran away. So, good on you. Good on you. Number, what are we at here? 6? Yeah, Portal 2. That's where Portal 2 comes in. And
Nice.
yeah, huge fan of that. I have played through it. I normally won't replay a game with co-op after I've already played it solo sometimes, because I'm like, I've already played it and I just want to move on and play something else. But Portal 2 is one that I would play again right now if someone wanted to. I've played it with my wife.
I was going to say, out of all the games we've listed so far, I want to go back and play Portal 2 again.
Exactly.
That's the one I want to play. Yeah.
And the thing is, I played it when it first came out in 2011, and probably played it again a couple years later, and probably played it again a couple years later. And my memory is so bad, thankfully, that I didn't just immediately remember the solutions right away. I mean, I was probably a little quicker at figuring them out, but it was still a challenge, which is good. So it does have some replayability if you wait long enough. And another really cool thing is that at MagFest one year, I got to meet Ellen McLean and get an autograph, and she's the voice of GLaDOS, and
yeah.
really cool meeting her. She's a really
awesome.
Swell person. So yeah,
I have my Steam queued up. I think I might play that,
Heck yeah.
play that a bit later.
Nice.
My number 6 is Don't Starve.
Of
and
course.
This is a bit of a under the radar game, but I've put a ton of hours into this game over the past few years. It's mostly my girlfriend's fault because she plays it more than I do. But this is like the kind of game, real simple, just drop you off on an island, basically. You try and survive, fend off monsters, and try and find food, build a camp. And now there's stuff, there's additions to the game now, like there's one called Hamlet, where you infiltrate a city of pigs, and you get to build a house. And it's crazy hard. Like, these games are just brutal because it's death and game over. Like, you that's it. Like, all the work you put into your camp and your character and all the stuff you found, it's gone. Goodbye.
Ouch.
But I really like the art style. I really like games like Don't Starve because it's they're simple, but there's a lot to them. Like, it's one of those games where the wiki, you go to the Don't Starve wiki and it's like 4,000 pages long or something ridiculous like that.
You have a video on your channel of Don't Starve, don't you?
Oh, yeah. And that was from like 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I've put a ton of hours into it since then. Yeah, it's one of my favorites of the past while.
Sure. Can you actually finish the game? Is there an end point?
Not really. I mean, you can get to the point. It's kind of like SimCity where you get to the point where it almost plays itself.
Oh, okay.
I think at you definitely do. The game kind of pushes you along to play some of the other DLCs, like Shipwrecked, for instance, where you experience different seasons. It's not just winter, summer, spring, etc. Then it's like windy season, volcano season, and like all this other stuff, like all these other hazards you have to deal with, and it's like impossible. But
gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty much like once you finish one version of the game, you move on to the other version, and that I think there's like at least there's Reign of Giants, there's Shipwrecked, and there's Hamlet, I think, and there's Vanilla. So there's 4 different kinds.
I've always been kind of interested in it, but I think the never-endingness of it is daunting.
Yeah,
it's just like
I like stuff like that. It gives me a SimCity kind of a vibe.
Okay, number 5 for me is The Walking Dead, the Telltale series. Specifically season 1, but I'll just lump them all together. Maybe the first time a video game has ever moved me narratively.
Yeah.
And I cared about Clementine so freaking much, and I thought about that game for days after I finished it, and I wouldn't stop talking about it to people. And really sad how Telltale ended up. I wanted a better ending for that series. I thought The characters deserved a little more than just a quick wrap up for the sake of business practices, but it is what it is. But yeah, I'll never forget the time I had with The Walking Dead, specifically season 1.
That was one that Pearl played through, and I would walk in and out of, I would just be moseying about the house like an old man, putzing around, and I would catch some of it here and there, and it looked really good. It looked really interesting. Occasionally I would sit down and watch, but yeah, I don't know if that's something I would play necessarily because it's more of a visual novel, but that's not typically my thing, but I could definitely tell it was really well done.
Yeah, it hooks you, for sure.
My number 5 is Metroid Samus Returns for 3DS. I have not finished this one yet, but I'm really looking forward to doing that because I love this game so far. It's almost like what else can they freaking come up with in this universe, and they still manage to surprise you, and it's not something like hokey or game breaking or overpowered. It's like, oh, it's this, and you get to stick to walls as you roll as a ball now, and it unlocks all this stuff over here, and you get to go back throughout the whole game. It's almost like, I remember, this is kind of a crude analogy, but I remember my girlfriend is really into horror writing, especially, and like manga and stuff like that. I'm sorry, manga.
Well, actually,
and, I got to do one.
Well, actually,
I got to do one.
And I have one collection of H.P. Lovecraft stories. I was like, hey, you might want to read this. You might like it. I think, how far back does Lovecraft go? Is it like the late 1800s?
I don't even
something
know.
Like that, or early 1900s? I can't remember. It's somewhere. It's a long time ago, and she said she couldn't read it because it was too. It felt too cliche, but it's like it's what invented the cliches in the first place.
Sure.
So it was tough to go back to, and I was kind of afraid of the same thing happening with Metroid Samus Returns. It's like, what if this isn't as good as Super Metroid? But it's just as good. I like it better than Metroid Fusion.
Interesting.
It's really good.
Did you enjoy? Because it's pretty much based on Metroid 2 that was on the Game Boy, right?
Yes.
Did you enjoy that one, like the Game Boy version back in the day?
I'm not crazy about the early Metroid stuff. The first Metroid game I really got into was Super Metroid, and that's mostly because I just didn't like the movement and the controls of Samus in the first 2 games. They always felt like way too floaty and not solid enough, and it just didn't agree with me, I guess, is the best way to put it.
Gotcha. I went back and played the second one not too long ago, and I ended up, I mean, I know it's kind of a black sheep for a lot of people. They're not a huge fan of it, but I actually really liked the countdown of the Metroids for some reason. I thought that was such a cool thing for from a progress tracker perspective, and how the game was it got one more, we're getting closer, even though it felt like it was a struggle. We went from 28 to 27 to go, baby, we're doing it.
Yeah, and it lends credence to Samus being a hunter, which is cool.
Yeah.
It adds to that lore, so yeah,
I like that a bit.
I like it.
Okay, number 4, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Great game. I mean, what are you going to say about people? People already know about this.
What else are you going to say about
so
Breath of the Wild?
But I'll say this, a little story about it. I actually, when I started playing it, I didn't really like it that much. I put it down for probably 6 months and didn't go back to it. Something about it was too daunting or something, or maybe I was distracted. That was around the time I had a kid, so there's tons of excuses I could throw at it. But I had to twist my own arm to pick it back up because I was like, I don't think I'm going to like it. And I was kind of disappointed that I didn't like it, because I really wanted to. But once I got into it, man, I was so hooked once I figured it out and started getting the map down a little bit more and kind of understood the recipe of the game, what it wanted from me. I was like, holy shit, this thing is incredible. No wonder people love it. So it took a little bit of time. I was slow to it, but it became one of my favorite games ever. So
I wish I had something else to say, but I've barely played it at all.
It's so good.
It looks cool.
Yeah.
There's certain listeners are screaming at their Bluetooth speakers right now, or taking out their AirPods and in their palm of their hands. What is wrong with you?
Probably.
My number 4 is Limbo.
Oh.
Which is a puzzle platformer. It's this is the kind of game where there's no time limit. Usually there's no time limit, but sometimes there's like a little bit of a imposed timing sequence that you need to get through. But just the way the puzzles are structured in this game are super fun. Almost Portal-esque, I would say, but it's a 2D
Interesting way to
platformer
put it, yeah.
with a lot of mood and atmosphere and weirdness, and those like giant spiders.
Yeah.
Those things creep the hell out of me. The music is
yes.
really good. Yeah, I had a blast playing this game. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's just killing a boy for 4 hours, but it's fun.
Pretty much, yeah. And that when you finally figure out the correct timing in that last puzzle, it's so satisfying. It's like, finally! Like, because I don't know about you, but it took me forever to figure that one out. Not figure it out, but just get it to the right spot.
Yeah, there were a couple that stumped me. Did you play Inside?
That's one of those where like a million people have told me to play it. I know I should play it, but I haven't played it yet. It's on my, a list of 4,000 games that I need to play, but I have not played it yet.
Well, after
no.
Portal 2 tonight, maybe fire it up.
Yeah, I think I do need to check that out.
Number 3 for me, Super Meat Boy. I am in love with Super Meat Boy. The music, the visuals, the stupid story, even the sound effect of meat hitting a wall, just so good. And it's a game that requires a little bit of skill, and it took me forever to get decent at it, and it's actually a game I can point to and say that's one that I'm good at, because I feel like most of the time I'm not very good at games. You should see how much NES footage I cut out because it's just ass playing, you know what I mean? It's like I can't put that in there, people make fun of me. So Super Meat Boy is a game that I really enjoy, and I even bought like because I played on the 360. I still have a 360 basically for this reason. It's because I have an Xbox arcade stick that goes with it that I can play Super Meat Boy on. And if you play it with the arcade sticks, you have so much more control. Oh, it's so good. Oh, I'm crazy about it. It's so good.
I'm surprised that's not number 1 because I know how much you love those games.
I love me some Meat Boy. Yes, sir.
I have to ask, did you see Indie Game the movie?
I did. Yes, loved it.
Where it shows them launching the game, and that was by far the best part of the movie.
Yes, it's a great. I love Edmund McMillan, and that documentary actually made me focus more on the people that make my games. I think before I just kind of passively would look at it's made by Playdead. That's cool. Those are cool guys. But now that made me be like, oh, there's people behind this. It was kind of an eye-opening experience, but. Yeah,
and in some cases there are jackasses behind those games, like Fez. But anyway,
oh yeah, that guy, God,
that freaking guy,
he's insufferable, insufferable.
My number 3 is Super Mario 3D Land. I still pick this one up every once in a while just to play, even though I've 100%ed it already. Gotten all the what do you call it? I can't even remember what they are. The star things or whatever, but on both the special world and the regular world, super fun. This is exactly how 3D platforming should be, at least for me, where the camera is kind of plotted out for you already. And I know that sounds like, oh, you're taking away my freedom, I can't use the camera myself. And it's like, no, like sometimes that's a good thing. Like that's one of the worst things about 3D platforming is having too much freedom, because the camera goes insane and you can't see anything, and you end up dying because you have no idea where you're jumping. Whereas in 3D Land, everything is already it's almost like a rail platformer where the camera follows you on rails and kind of guides you along and shows you where to go. At the same time, it's still there's still some really challenging levels that do the whole auto scroll thing where the screen can kill you, which is kind of ridiculous, and I kind of hate those levels, but it's still a fun challenge. Oh, I love that. I love Mario 3D Land, and I need to get a Switch just for Odyssey, but that might be a little too. Then again, I did like Galaxy and Galaxy 2, but
oh, you should definitely get a Switch, buddy. Come on, you got to do
it. Yeah. The thing is, I just don't have enough time to put into it. It would just sit there collecting dust.
Instead of napping at work, you could play a little Switch. Yeah. Pretty good idea. But no, I got you.
Nah, it's not.
My number 2 is Skyrim. Pretty normie response, right? It's on. You can play it on your toaster. I can play it on this marker that I'm holding in my hand. It's everywhere. It's all around us always. But I was so jazzed when this game came out. I picked it up. It was a game that I actually pre-ordered, and I don't do that often. I was that excited. And so I played the shit out of it. And then it was actually the first game that my wife played, which is weird that that's the first video game that she played. She had no build-up. I was like, what do you want to play? You want to play like because she exerted some interest, and I was like, "Do you want to play like I don't know, got some easier games we can start on?" She's like, "No, I want to play that." And I was like, "That will be hard," but she plowed through it, man. It took her a long time to get the hang of dual stick control, in a 3D space, but once she got it, she played through it and played through it twice actually. Probably put 400 hours into it. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, pretty crazy. And so it's my favorite, I guess, maybe because it was a good relationship builder on top of everything else. But as rote and trite and overdone as it is now, I can't deny that I loved it when it was hot back in 2011. And I'm actually looking forward to Elder Scrolls 6 whenever that comes.
Yeah, when is that coming? Is that...
I don't think they've given us a date, but in the next couple of years probably.
Well, in the meantime, at least we have Skyrim Pinball, the virtual pinball adaptation, which
is that really a thing?
Everybody was waiting for mobile devices.
Oh, that is real. I just Googled it. Holy shit.
Yeah, it is. It's like, did people really want that? I don't know.
I don't think so.
My number 2 is Nier Automata.
Yeah.
And this is another one I haven't put nearly as much time into as I'd like, but it's a brilliant, brilliant game. It's so freaking creative and weird and strange. The game has like a made-up language that the whole soundtrack is sung in. So I actually took the time to watch these concerts being performed of the soundtrack. These singers, they are freaking singing this stuff.
I'm sorry I did this to you.
That's his name.
Yeah, I just sent Alex a picture of Phil Fish, and the one that you Google, the guy that made Fez, the one that you Google is not, I guess, flattering of him. It's funny to look at.
It's when you hear the Well-Actually voice, that is the face that you should be picturing.
Exactly. Yes. Sorry, everyone.
No worries. No worries. What was I saying?
Nier Automata is fantastic.
Nier Automata. Yeah, I love that game, and I love that whole universe, and I still need to... I have so much more to go in that game, but I need to, temper, I need to keep the channel afloat. I can't just unplug everything and play this game forever as much as I'd like to. But just the whole idea behind the game, the whole the story and all of that stuff. I don't want to spoil anything by mentioning the machines and their all that sort of stuff. I don't know. I don't know how to say it. It's just a really fucking cool game and a cool universe to visit and stuff like that.
I mean, let me ask you. So you have all these games that you want to play, but you're focused on the channel. I mean, is there no wiggle room to combine the two? Is there no way to do some project where you include Nier Automata or some of these other games you've been meaning to get to as part of the video repertoire?
Not really, because anytime I try and get footage from a PS4 game, it overwhelms my any kind of video editing software I try and use, and
Gotcha.
It doesn't work. And even if I want it to work, I have to dial it back down to 30 frames per second or something, and it's all grainy and shitty looking, and it's just what am I even doing? So I'd rather just play and just enjoy it rather than analyzing it to death.
That makes sense. Okay. Very
right
cool.
On.
Yeah, and Nier Automata is a good one. That was the first PS4 game that I bought and played when I got a PS4 and thought it was great. Very cool. So number 1, we're at number 1 already. We've finally done it. We've made it. We're here. Yep. Yeehaw. We're talking about Red Dead Redemption 2. Put me on a horse. Take me out to the middle of nowhere. Take me out to the desert. Let me fire on I don't know what we're hunting out there. I can't remember. But we hunted.
Moose?
Maybe? I don't think there were moose. Maybe moose. But it's fun, man. It's very open-ended, open world. I know that's a turnoff to a lot of people. It's very slow and plotting. It's a Rockstar formula, so there's a lot of A to B travel that you have to do, but it's very rich in what it does. The narrative is amazing, certainly by Rockstar standards. I was very impressed. And I played that game for literally 6 months. It was the only game I played. Just
nice.
After putting the kid to bed, just mosey downstairs, hop on the horse, and just head on out. Yo, let's go. Fun.
That's another one where I wander into the room. There's Pearl playing Red Dead Redemption 2. What the hell's going on? Chasing some wolves. Wasn't there a fox in that game that you could track down and it would like lead you to like a shrine or something like that? Or am I thinking of Ghost
That sounds
of
like something from Zelda, but maybe.
Oh, I think I'm thinking of Ghost of Tsushima, but yeah, one of those games. But yeah, no, Red Dead Redemption 2, good. I could tell it's good. No, I don't know. I don't really know anything about it, but it sounds awesome.
Did Pearl like it? I'm interested.
Yeah. I think she got a little impatient with I think you nailed it with the like point A to point B nature of, even though you're in an open world, it still wants you to, it still wants to have you mosey on down between these two places. And it's like, well, I don't want to.
Yeah, it does a fair bit of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that was her, I think that was her hang up with it. My number one is Stardew Valley.
Of course.
One of my favorite games ever. I've put well over 200 hours into this game. I got to the point with my first town my first farm rather, that I couldn't do anything else. I unlocked everything. I caught every fish, got every weapon. I know there's like lots of like DLC and lots of like things since then, but the point is that I got so much money now from planting ancient fruit in the greenhouse, and my property is nothing but wine barrels. So I am just nothing but wine barrels every week or so, every 2 weeks, producing ancient fruit wine. So I get like $80 billion or something like that for every 2 weeks, and it's kind of absurd. And I was like, well, I guess I win or something. So, but they've done a nice job. That's a game that's made by one guy, which is freaking insane to think about. But
yeah,
he did a really nice job adding on with the 1.5 thing update. Now it's multiplayer, split screen multiplayer. Which is really cool. What else is there that he added? There's all sorts of different farm maps. Like there's a mountain map, there's a river map, all that stuff. You can make clothes now. I think if you visit Emily, she can, I think you like bring her a feather or something like that, and she teaches you how to make clothes, and you have to like get a sewing machine. I forget. It's just the sheer amount of that. Again, like Don't Starve. This is another game that has like a wiki website that's like 4,000 articles, and I love stuff like that. I really need to go back to that game too, because I really, this was a game I spent like 6 months on. Like it became routine. Like come in after work, walk the dogs, hang out with Pearl, and watch whatever, and then go play Stardew Valley for like 2 hours.
Jeez.
And yeah, and that was kind of my life for like however long. I admire that guy for putting out as much effort as he has into that game, but I kind of want him to do something else at this point, because I want to see what other ideas he might have and what other games he has planned.
Yeah, that's really incredible. That game, I mean, we were talking about Axiom Verge. That's a one-guy deal. It's pretty amazing what people are able to do. Yeah.
Yeah, big
incredible.
Time.
Cool. Well, that does it. I feel pretty good about my 13. It actually got me excited. I want to play some of them again now.
I know. Like, I was like, oh, Mario 3D Land, I need to... what if I started a new game save on that? Yeah. Doom 2016, I haven't even thought about that game until earlier yesterday when... I was like, oh shit, I need to play that again.
Yeah, I need to play the sequel. I haven't touched any of Doom Eternal. I hear it's not as good, but you're not going to talk me out of not trying it.
I've put a little bit of time into that. It does a little too much story for my liking.
That's what Doom doesn't need. It does not need a story. All right, that's been another Drunk Friend podcast. Thanks for joining us on that ride. As always, you can reach out to us with questions or comments at drunkfriendpodcast@gmail.com. And I know we're reading some emails from the holidays, but we're running low again, so please reach out to us, say hello, give us a question or two. We could always use them, and we'll respond here eventually, Please reach out to polymedianetwork.com. We have a new website. We didn't want to have kill there in the title for everyone to venture over to. Polykill will get you to the same place, but if you just want to check out all the other podcasts we have, Tales of the Lesser Medium, Polykill, PD's Power Hour is great. Indie Quest is going to have a great interview this coming week as well, so please hop on over once again to polymedianetwork.com to check all those out.
And hey, even if you're sending an email and you say things like Happy Holidays, the holidays you could be referring to are, Arbor Day and Valentine's Day or something like that.
That's right.
I don't know.
Yeah,
it doesn't necessarily have to be the holidays everybody else thinks of.
Just say Happy Holidays on every email. That way we can always just pick the holiday we like.
Yes, say congratulations, happy birthday, happy holidays, just like my work emails.
Yeah, there you go.
Every freaking email. If you're not interested in sending an email, no big deal. Just give us a rating and review on a podcast app of your choice. That's going to help us out big time.
Heck yeah. You can also find us on social media. I'm on Twitter at Trav Plays Games. Alex is, of course, at SNESDrunk.
And as always, the music you heard at the beginning and you can hear right now was composed by our friend Coolor. The track you hear is called Electric Star Bounce, and you can find a link to more of his music on the Buzzsprout podcast page. And a big shout out to Josh Leslie for our thirst-quenching logo.
Man, that's the most flawless you've ever read that. Be sure to catch us all on YouTube, and thanks for listening.
And we hope you have a great rest of your day.